Good morning, grade 10. Today I'm going to do the third type of graph, and we're looking at increasing linear, not in direct proportion. Remember, the first one was the constant, which was like this, and then we did increasing linear in direct proportion, which was like that. So today we're doing increasing linear, not in direct proportion. And as I've always said, we'll have a scenario in mathematical literacy. So let's talk about a friend of mine who's got a little coffee bistro, and she has a little van from which she sells coffee, and she hires a venue each weekend, and for the month it costs her 400 Rand to hire that venue. So she has a fixed cost of 400 Rand. It doesn't make any difference how many cups of coffee she sells, she definitely has a fixed cost of 400 Rand. So if I start with an equation here, her costs will be equal to 400 Rand plus. Now, in addition to her fixed cost, she also has a variable cost because she pays for the ingredients in each cup of coffee. And she's figured out that those ingredients amount to, let's say, 10 Rand. So for each cup of coffee sold, she'll pay 10 Rand. So it's 10 Rand times N, where N stands for the number of coffee cups sold. And this is an equation to represent the costs of her business. Now let's make a table to show her costs for up to, say, 200 cups of coffee. So we are not going to graph every value, we're just going to choose a couple. Let's say 0, 50, 100 and 200 cups of coffee, and this will be cups, and this will be her costs. Now, even if she goes to these venues and doesn't sell any coffee, she is going to have the cost of 400 Rand. If she sells 50 cups of coffee, 50 times 10 is 500 plus 400 is 900. So if over the month she sold 50 cups, her cost would be 900 Rand. Notice how the 400 Rand is included there. 100 times 10 is 1,000, so that will be 1,400. I'm remembering my 400 fixed cost, bringing it along. 200 times 10 is 2,000 Rand, so with the fixed cost 2,400 Rand. Let's graph this relationship now. Right, so one thing I noticed in the work showed me yesterday is that there weren't any values, and that was probably because my demo didn't have values on, but we should have some values. So here we'll have cups of coffee, and we're going to go up to 200. So we choose the scale, we'll maybe go up in 50s, 100, 150, 200. Make sure your gaps are as evenly spread as you can make them, and write here cups of coffee sold, or just cups of coffee, and this will be costs in Rand, and we need to get up to 2,400, so maybe we can go up in 500s, 500, 1,000, 1,500, I might have to need a bit more space here, so we'll make that 2,000, and up here 2,500, right. So again, we've got a scale going up as evenly as possible in some chosen scale that fits on your page. And at 200, she's on 2,400. And at 0, she is on 400. And then you can plot the others, but as long as you've got 2 points, you can join these points with a ruler. Now, before we join them, we should decide, is this discrete or continuous data? Remember, look at the x values here. Can these numbers be fractions? No, she does not make parts of cups of coffee, only cups, whole cups of coffee. So we have discrete data here. So we're going to join these two lines with a ruler, but using a broken line. So I'll just give it my best shot. Wasn't great, but there we have our line. And now, if we look at increasing linear, we do not have direct proportion, and it doesn't, if we look at increasing linear not in direct proportion, we'll notice our graph does not go through the origin. That is very typical. And also, if we put the point the first point would be 1 cup of coffee would cost 410 Rand, 2 cups of coffee would cost 420 Rand. We can see that there is not a constant ratio here. This is 1:410, this ratio here is 1:210. There is no constant ratio, but what we do have is a constant difference. For each extra cup of coffee made, there is a difference of 10 Rand. So the gradient of this line is influenced by what each cup of coffee is costing her, which is 10 Rand. So the fixed cost determines where the graph starts, and the variable cost per cup of coffee is determining the gradient of our line. If it cost her more per cup, this line would be steeper. If it cost her less per cup, this line would not be as steep. So the variable cost per cup is actually determining the gradient of the line. So if you had to explain why you have selected this particular relationship, you could say there is no constant ratio, but there is a constant increase of 10 Rand. Thanks.